Sometimes I like to go to the park and read. Now I'm in my car. I need a smoke after Michel Foucault's Madness and Civilization, A History of Insanity. Society runs on such a tyrannical understanding of reason that the tyrannical understanding of reason creates its own opposite. It creates its own insanity. Without the fool, society would crumble. We've isolated ourselves from the fool. The misfit is the true villain in the grandiose, delusional narrative of reason that is being played out by state actors. From leper colonies to the birth of the asylum, Foucault asks, who has the authority to declare someone unreasonable, insane, abnormal? And what happens when that authority is given state power through institutions? You see, because in the 17th century, Europe started to lock up its mentally ill people. It was called the Great Confinement, and it wasn't limited to just mentally ill people. We're talking prostitutes, criminals, the poor. It wasn't about treating mental illness. It was about treating social order. And madness is clearly relative. Madness is not some timeless category. Madness is largely determined by reason, which also is a dynamic category. Reason and madness both change over time, and madness is usually defined by what reason isn't. It's always defined in relation to reason. So as reason changes, madness must also change. But also, madness could be the inability to change. Madness is always in opposition to what has been decided upon as reason itself. Reason is tyranny. Madness is the thousand voices of the misfit who just can't fit in, especially not under the tyrannical frameworks of the age of reason. Foucault posits that madmen, mad women, social constructs are constructed around them. Not the other way, not the other way around. Social constructs are constructed around madmen and mad women, around mad people. The mad person isn't a ward of science or a squire of medicine. Society constructs categories around them. The birth of the asylum was initially viewed by most historians as liberation, liberating the mad from their literal chains. But Foucault would say that we traded the madman's chains for enforced conformity, for surveillance, right? For internalized despair, internalized grief, internalized shame. And I think we're largely stuck with that now. This book was originally written in 1965, and I feel like we are still in the age of asylums, even though asylums don't exist. If you don't believe me, go and get yourself admitted to a mental hospital. And we're still doing the same, I would call it occasionally hyper-violent and deeply manipulative coercions of conformity upon the patients there. And normally the coercions of conformity are done through extreme surveillance methods, extreme methods that are meant to induce some sort of self-shame, which would provoke an act of conformity on the patient. That would seem to be the goal. That was the goal within state asylums, obviously. And that is still the goal today within mental hospitals. Mental hospitals are still stuck in the past. Mental hospitals are still a bunch of bullshit. Mental hospitals can do a lot better. They are so dehumanizing. And I think that that's largely what Foucault was circling around, was trying to express, that the way that we treat madness in our age of ultra-modern reason today would be seen as dehumanizing, because the mad person is overwhelmed with humanity, has too much humanity, too much unreason, too much of the misfit. So the way to cure that is through actual dehumanization. If you are too human, we dehumanize you. Because by dehumanizing someone, you kind of strip them of their unique characteristics that makes them an individual, makes them unique, and certainly, in theory, makes them mad, makes them unreasonable. And so by doing that, conformity becomes some sort of capitalist compulsion within the infrastructure provided by modern medicine under state psychiatry. That's what I got from this book largely. I'm adding a lot to Foucault here, but I think that he would find himself agreeing with me, um, at least in spirit, I would think. This book is great. This book is really good. And I kind of, you know what? Yeah, I kind of encourage most people who are dealing with a mental illness to read this book and to think about all the ways that the state has tried to shape them, mold them, correct them, and force them to conform to reason. And let your blood boil like mine did. Foucault is a fascinating philosopher. I am in Foucault's debt in a large way. He was one of my favorite guys. When I was in my, at some point in my 20s, he was one of my favorite guys. I loved Foucault's work. Really opened my eyes to a lot of different things, especially about power and about how power itself makes its own invisible double. And you can read that here. Reason itself creates its own tyrannical double, its own double image. And that double image you could possibly call a different kind of insanity, but an insanity that has been institutionalized, an insanity that has been codified, an insanity that has even been edified through the age of reason. So reason itself produces its own tyranny, which is the sociopathic form of reason. Right, and yet it's the misfits. Yet it's the bipolar, major depressives, and schizoaffectives that are truly the ones who need to be forced to conform to this formless fucking idea, concept of reason. To me, reason is tyranny, and I love being unreasonable. Love it. Foucault really breaks this down, and the language is accessible. I think the prose is really good, and I think that when Foucault goes for that layup, goes for that slam dunk, you feel it, and you're like, oh, fuck, bro. Yeah, you nailed that one. I think it's a really fun read. I think it's a really revealing read, and yes, it is an essential read for those of us who are mad. People like you and I. That's who this book was for. Michel Foucault, patron saint of the misfit. Absolutely. But that's all today. Just a quick video about one of the greatest pieces of philosophy ever, especially as it concerns mental health. I think this is probably one of the greatest pieces of mental health philosophy you'll ever find. So, yeah, loved it. That's it for me today. Bipolar Book Club. My name is Zach. And bye for now.